Hello all you Space Wolf loving cosmonauts, as always I am Cosmic, and today welcome to the grimdark future of Warhammer 40,000 in a preview look at Warhammer 40,000 Sanctus Reach, which is a turn-based strategy game in development by Straylight Entertainment and being published by Slytherin. The game is set in the Sanctus Reach system, where the Imperium of Man is beset on all sides by the Orcs. A red war has swept through the system, world after world has fallen to the mighty Orcs, and only one last planet resides left to conquer, the night world of Alarak Prime. And this is where a brave company of Space Wolves is going to make its last stand against the Green Tide. The game is set for release in January of 2017, so not long to wait now. The demo build I actually played was a fairly unfinished, unpolished version of the game. There were a couple of crashes, a couple of technical issues, which are to be expected. However, I do hope that they iron those issues out. Now, the game is also, upon launch, set to feature a campaign, which will include two separate campaigns, both containing over 20 missions each. It will contain a skirmish mode, a map generator to create your own maps, and a multiplayer mode as well. So there's plenty of potential for longevity and replayability upon the launch, but we'll see how that gets executed. In terms of the build I played, I only played a single story mission, which was a mission that was objective based, which was somewhat satisfying in terms of I'm glad that it's looking like the campaign isn't going to be just a simple kill all the enemy each and every single mission. There's going to be objective based missions, there's going to be different mechanics and different goals involved in that, and that makes me somewhat hopeful. That being said, let's get down to the core mechanics. Now, like I've said, it is a turn-based strategy game. Now, the way this works is that before every match starts, you're able to select a various sizable force from a points-based system. So each unit has a set amount of points attached to it, depending on how powerful it is. Very much similar to the original tabletop game, and in fact, the entire game very much feels like the tabletop game. It feels like a somewhat simplified digital version of the tabletop, which is no bad thing, and I quite like that overall feel. Now, once you've selected a sizable force from and used up all your points, you can then head into battle. I was really impressed with the unit variety on show, including the Space Wolves and the Orcs. There's all the things that you've come to expect, from your straightforward Space Marine squad to Bloodclaw squads to powerful heroes and commanders to dreadnoughts to Imperial Knights to various vehicles like rhinos. Everything is in there and they all look great. My hats off go to the character animators, because the animations look great, the unit models look great. The textures of the actual world are somewhat to be desired, but overall I thought it was passable. It was a pretty decent representation of a Warhammer 40k game, and like I say, it was very reminiscent of the tabletop, so I really very much enjoyed it on a visual and audible perspective. Now, once a match starts, the game works very simple. It's a very traditional turn-based system in that you'll be able to move all your units and use your attacks if you want, and then the enemy will go, and then you will go, and then the enemy will go, and it's very simple like that. Each unit has movement and attacks, and they are separate, so you can move, attack, and then move again, and then attack again. You get 2 attacks, and you can move more than once, but it's one of those things where every time you move, your range is reduced, so you'll only be able to move a certain number of tiles at any one time. Where combat does get interesting is in the fact that each unit, like in a tabletop and like you would come to expect in any Warhammer 40k game, each unit has its advantages and its disadvantages. So a squad of Terminators who are equipped with power fists and storm bolters are going to be particularly effective against your standard orc troops, but they are going to struggle against a mech war boss, for example. Likewise, a dreadnought is going to have a pretty damn good time against most things, except really heavy mechanized infantry. So in terms of tactics, there's plenty of tactical depth there. You have to use your advantages and negate your disadvantages. On top of this, units also gain abilities. Now, the game is set to have a fairly extensive progression system that will, especially in particularly the campaign, your units will gain experience, they will level up, and they'll be able to unlock new abilities and tactical options. For example, the Space Wolf Commander and the hero units, they have various abilities such as frag grenade, or they have multiple axe attacks, or they have the rally ability. There's multiple abilities for different units, and they all work in various situations, so it gives that added layer of strategic depth to the game. One thing that I really liked about the unit makeup and the strategic depth of the game is the fact that the developers seem to have really understood what makes the tabletop great. Now, what makes the tabletop great is the fact that you can have two squads of Space Marines, and they're basically the same in the sense of they are Space Marines. They're not hero units, they're not dreadnoughts, they're not Imperial Knights, they're just two squads of Space Marines, but each is equipped with different weaponry and thus will be effective in different ways. And Sanctus Reach does this really well. You're going to have sets of units that on the surface almost look the same, but then when you go closer you realize that one squad is equipped with bolter pistols and the other squad is equipped with heavy flamers, and they're going to be effective against different types of units. And there's that variety within units themselves that is something that I really appreciated as a fan of the franchise. Now, in terms of numbers of unit variety, we're talking about over 30 Space Wolf units and over 30 Orc Goth units. Now, I never got a chance to experience the multiplayer, so it's something that is going to have to wait for the review, I'm afraid, because there wasn't an option to play the multiplayer or test the multiplayer out in any way in the demo version. I have to say that in terms of its core mechanics, I really like Sanctus Reach, how it's shaping up thus far. It does certainly have a couple of problems. Visually, it has a couple of problems with low textures. I think it could use a nice coat of paint in that regard, just a little polish up, making it look nice. Yes, keep the grimdark aesthetic, but it doesn't mean that it needs to look like, everything's like got this grey filter over it. I don't like that. I hope that they give some high-res textures and some real detail into the buildings and the floors and terrain of the world, just to give it that added element. And I think that if they manage to pull off a really good story mode, including maybe some cutscenes, some decent voice acting in there, then the campaign will shape up nicely. I think that it's got the game overall at this point in time has the potential to be a really good Warhammer 40k turn-based strategy game. It certainly looks the part, it certainly plays the part, it's got all the elements that it needs to have to be a good Warhammer 40k game. However, I think that there's still room for them to mess it up if they chose to. So it's definitely a case of making sure that you put that extra polish on, you give it that extra little bit of coat of paint that it needs, that time to shine, so that when the time comes, people can really enjoy it with fewer problems as possible. So it's definitely one that's gone from completely not on my radar to right smack bang in the middle of my radar. I really hope that they put some polish and some love and care into this come between now and the supposed release date of somewhere in the January region. And if it turns out to be great, then keep an eye out for my review, because I'll definitely be reviewing it. So that is my preview of Warhammer 40,000 Sanctus Reach. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Let me know what your thoughts are on the game in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe and share. And as always, I will see you next time.